Welcome to another episode of the Porch Light Podcast. And for this episode, I'm joined by the one and only Father Rod, as we affectionately know him here at Faith Alliance Church. My name's Harry Ozarek. I'm the assistant pastor at Faith Alliance Church. And our hopes, as always, with this podcast is that we would engage you in a conversation and hopefully give you something that you can live out on a daily basis and grow closer to God and grow closer to one another, love each other, love God. It's fantastic. And so for this episode, in talking with Rod, we're going to be looking at the subject of rhythm of rest. And before we jump into that, Rod, I'd love for you just to share a little bit of who you are, why you're sitting at this table, and I don't know, maybe some hobbies and things like that.
Well, I don't know if I have any hobbies outside of not sleeping much sometimes, but speaking of rest.
Yeah.
We've been here, I guess, my family and I, for about 7-8 years now, 8 years possibly. Doesn't seem to be possible. I have a little different background. I, for several years, right out of college, I pastored a church in southwestern Wyoming, and moved to Casper. That's where I met my wife, Heather. Lived there for a few years and moved out to Iowa, to the great state of Iowa, and pastored a church in the eastern part of the state for 6.5 years. And after doing that, we moved to Billings and did some variety of things there, and finally found some work up here in Sydney. And like I say, we've been here since October or November, I guess, of 2012. So we're coming up on 8 years here in Sydney, 8 years here at Faith Alliance Church.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm kind of becoming one of the veterans around here, I guess. I've come to realize that at my age now, I'm no longer part of the, we're not one of the young families anymore. We're one of the older people, and we're getting there. And so my wife, Heather, has been along my side for 22, 23 years, somewhere in there. And we have a daughter, Christiana, who's going to be a junior this year at Sydney. Hopefully, she'll be a junior regardless if there's school or not. But so yeah, that's kind of her family. What do I do? Well, in the summertime, I like to play golf a lot.
Yeah, you do.
A lot. The wintertime, last year I spent a lot of time on the road and at home, but play-by-play voice of the Sydney Eagles, and spent a lot of time calling basketball games and had a blast doing it. And hopefully the opportunity will present itself this winter as well.
I'd look forward to that. Provided
there's a season. Everything's a big if right now, but so that's kind of what I do. Not probably a very exciting life, but it's the life I live, I love, and enjoy.
Yeah. And by the way, for those of you that end up listening to this way down the road, way in the future, the if that Rod is referring to is we are living in the COVID-19 days, where it seems that every event known to man is up in the air. You cannot plan on anything happening. And so there are a lot of ifs out there. And that's a decent segue into our subject of rhythm of rest. I think one of the huge components of finding a rhythm of rest is it relieves you of some worry, some anxiety, some uncomfortableness and frustration with the unknown. And Lord knows we are dealing with that quite a bit. And if you allow yourself, you can really focus on some of those negative things for a long time, and it can rob you from rest, really. But Rod, if you could just share a little bit of your heart when it comes to this subject, rhythm of rest, finding rest. What does that mean to you? Why is that something that was laid on your heart? And then you have some scripture that we're going to dig into that I'm looking forward to as well.
Well, I think, as I kind of thought about it, we're not, I don't know if we're any less restful people than the last generation or the previous generation or the generation before that. every generation has this thing that somehow it's, where things are worse off than they were before. And every generation thinks that they have it worse than the previous generation. And are we a generation that has less rest than before? I don't know. We are probably the most impatient generation. Till the next generation comes.
Instant gratification.
Till the next generation comes along, then they will be even more impatient than we are. But we don't, at least my experience, don't take a lot of time to rest. It's just, it's just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
We got to get this done, and we're going from one thing to the next. I know that I don't take a lot of time to rest. I've talked about my schedule, which involves, getting up at 2:30 in the morning and going to work. And
2:30 in the morning. Right?
Yeah, I probably get about 4 to 5 hours of sleep before that, and then go to work, and then I get a nap in, a little rest in here once in a while. But I just thought about this in relation to taking time off, and when I do take time off, it's not usually restful. It's doing something. It's being active. It's going somewhere, and it's usually packing in as much as you can in that time.
Yep.
Or if I take a day off, I'm driving bus somewhere or doing something,
Yep. Paul often says to me when I get back from a vacation, so do you want a vacation from your vacation?
Absolutely. That's what I feel like after just a couple of days off. It's like, I need a couple of days off just to rest. And then there's something within us, I guess, that I don't know quite what it is, but that if we take time to rest, it's like we're wasting time. And just to sit and, just relax, like I should be doing something. And I think a part of it is our pace of life. We always have something to do, something to plan, and all of a sudden we don't. And it's like, well, I should be doing something. We almost get kind of nervous, fidgety, because it's like we're supposed to be doing something now. What is it? And we don't know how to rest. I don't know how to rest.
Yeah, I think there's an expectation in our world today, in a really big way, of if you're not being productive, which is getting off your butt and doing something, if you're not being productive, you're being lazy. And I think we've forsaken a lot of biblical truth that there's a lot of productivity that can be done by yourself in your closet with just you and the Lord and praying, or just sitting and meditating on the Word, reading God's Word. I think, but there's this expectation. Well, you're not doing anything, Rod. You're not up. You're not moving. You're not active. You're not doing something that is gonna show fruit right off the bat, right? Like if I go and I turn soil in my garden, right? When I get done, I can see it, right? If I want to go mow the lawn, I get done with that and I can see the work I've done, right? Productivity. Go clean the bathroom, go take out the garbage, chore after chore, thing after thing. I think in some ways, parents of teens is before they're able to drive, you're taking them from one event to the next, to the next, to the next. That's an expectation on the parent. And I've definitely seen and heard some different parents judge other parents who say no to certain events, right? No, we're not going to run all over here. We're not going to drive 5 hours over here. And other parents are going, why not? Wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that for your kid? And I think in some ways those parents are going, we don't want them to have that expectation where you have to be doing something all the time or else you're not being effective in this world. And it's just not true. I think that's an incredibly good insight, Rod. Because there's a cultural pressure for sure to be doing things.
And in the workplace, everyone maybe dreams of a job where they say you have unlimited amount of time, PTO, paid time off. There was a company, I believe it was in Seattle, did that several years ago. And they actually found that the people took less time off than they did They gave them unlimited PTO. In other words, I guess if you want to take
unlimited PTO.
If you want to take 6 months off, you can take 6 months off. But they actually found their workers were taking less time off because they felt if they took time off, then someone was going to pass them by
Yeah.
on the way up.
Yeah.
And so they felt
take a month off, but you're not going to last.
So they actually spent more time at work than less time than they thought they would.
Wow.
And it's
effective for the business, but perhaps detrimental to its employees.
Yeah, it's just like get ahead, in this
yeah.
whole thing. Again, if I take some time off, then I'm kind of looking over my shoulder and going, well, that guy or that woman is spending time in the office, more time than I am, and the boss may look at that and say, well, they're pretty dedicated to their job, and they're gonna. And maybe when promotion comes up between you and them, and they get it and you don't, and then you kind of fall behind. And so there's that pressure that can happen in the workplace as well. And so, and it just kind of builds and builds upon itself. And pretty soon we got a, society that doesn't know how to shut it down. And, we live in a very, obviously very technological advanced society. We have a lot of things, our phones, especially now,
iPads, computers,
whatever. We have access to so much information
right at the fingertips. Yep.
that we never had before, and it's finding that rest in the Lord. And you mentioned a couple scriptures, and let's kind of dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, Genesis 2, right, 1-3.
Yeah.
Would you like to read that, or you want me to?
Let's go ahead. I'll read from the New Living Translation. So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed on the seventh day. God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day, declared it holy because of the day when he rested from all his work of creation. Now, the word rested there in verse 2 and verse 3, my notes, and I've heard others say that it means ceased from his work. He was done from the work. It was over, and God rested. Do you take a day off? Well, I don't think God takes a day off. But he everything that he wanted to accomplish, I guess you could say, in those 6 days he accomplished.
Right.
And when it was done, he ceased, he quit, he was done. And he didn't look for more things to do and say, I could probably...
Yeah, you didn't go back to the task list
Yeah,
and go,
well,
there's more things for me to do.
I suppose we could create a few more things here.
Right. We could agree that God was not done.
No, he was not done.
He was not done. He was done for that week.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he knew, I'm done. Okay. Now I'm gonna rest, and he's gonna that seventh day, which we in the evangelical community, at least most of us say is Sunday. Whether it was Sunday or Monday, I don't think it really matters.
I think it's the culturally practiced day. Within the Christian society, if you will, culture.
But he said he declared it holy because it was a day when he rested from all his work in creation. And so as we get into the next scripture in Exodus 20, it's something about setting aside that day. And I'm not of the opinion that it has to be Sunday. There are some that do. Whatever day that happens to be. I mean, we're not living in the 50s anymore where we stop on Sunday.
Right.
A lot of people do, thankfully.
There's many events that go on Sunday now. A lot of sporting events happen on Sunday.
Work goes on. I work, in a world of it's 365. It doesn't quit. Working the oil field. The oil keeps moving, and they don't say, it's Sunday, we're not going to move any oil today. No, it's you just keep going. And so for those of us in that world, it is hard to find that time to rest because, whatever schedule you have, a common schedule in my world is 8 days on, 6 days off. Some people do, I think, 10 on, 4 off. Whatever his schedule is. It's hard to find that that day. Obviously,
Yep.
if you're working 8 and 6, you're not in our schedule. You're working every other weekend, so you're working every other Sunday. So what day do you use to rest?
Right.
Take that day off.
Yeah.
It's a little more difficult situation to navigate in our world
Yeah.
because we are a 24/7, 365 day.
Yeah.
We just keep chugging along.
Well, and like you said before, it's incredibly competitive in any of the workplaces around. I've got 2 brothers, one software engineer, one financial analyst, and they both say too that there's always somebody younger, more, passionate or whatever, always trying to push, always trying to, get past them to keep on going. I appreciate my older brother Michael. He really has made a point to go, if that's what's going to mean I lose a spot in the job because I forsake God, forsake what he's called me to do, which is have a rhythm of rest, then, that's what it is. And I think that's an incredibly uncommon, as you were just saying, uncommon thing. And also part of it too, so as a pastor, right, Sundays are definitely not a day of rest. Paul and I would both, Paul Turek, our senior pastor, we both agree, we get done, and we go home, during the summers, we're home, probably around 11:30 or so. We're exhausted, right? We're looking for a bite to eat. And then, for Paul, he's looking to take a nap. I struggle to take a nap during the day. I'm looking to veg, I'm looking to so, I mean, for me and Paul as well, our day off is Friday, right? And just when you're talking about ceasing, right, that looks different for everybody too.
Yes.
I had a previous pastor where running errands and getting stuff done around the house was part of his day off. And it was a conscious part of his day off, not like it needed to be done he enjoyed running to the store. He enjoyed mowing the lawn as part of his rhythm of rest, right? And I don't know if you remember when I first came and I was chatting with you guys as leadership, having that interview, I shared that those things don't give me rest. Mowing the lawn, I don't mind it, but it's not somewhere I go to commune with God and be recharged and filled up. Now, spending a whole day by myself is not a day of rest for me either, right? And I think sometimes that we try to pigeonhole people is all I'm trying to say, right? And so does golf take effort, Rod?
Depends how good you are.
Yeah, right. The answer is yes.
It does.
Yes, it takes effort both physically, it takes effort emotionally to not throw your club, right, when you make a bad shot. It takes effort mentally to focus on what you're doing. So is that ceasing from work, from effort? Well, it depends on the person, right? And I think that's something that we forget really quick is ceasing from work is going to look a little different from all of us. The point of that rhythm of rest that's being shared here in Genesis is really about ceasing from these things that you're trying to push forward and advance and spend time with Him, to be recharged, to have that cleansing of your mind, that you're not just always in this mouse wheel, just going. I think a physical component is part of it, but mentally, emotionally, it's a huge piece of that. And it's going to look different for each person, like you were just saying with the oil field. It really is. It's going to look vastly different. Your rhythm of rest is going to look vastly different from my rhythm of rest, from somebody else's rhythm of rest. But I love that you brought up this scripture, because it is not a hey, suggestion. It's something that God demonstrated is what we should do. If God is doing it, demonstrating it, we should probably take heed,
probably follow.
Right? But I don't know if you want to jump to the next one there.
Well, I think that kind of leads to the next scripture, and it's Exodus 20, 8 to 11, I believe it is. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners who live among you. For in the 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them, but on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. And as I thought about that scripture, it's a command. It's you might say, a requirement.
Yeah.
It wasn't like God got to 9 and said, man, I need a nice round number here. I need a 10th. What 10th? What can I get 10? 10. Let's see. What else can I throw in here? It's number 4, I believe it is. It's an important thing. And what tells me this is that the importance of, as we talked about, of taking that time, what I think really it was not only physical rest, but a time to focus on God more than just, for most people, the hour they come in on Sunday morning.
Pause for a second. I want to double check. I'm having this little thing in the back of my head.
I understand.
Still running. We're still recording. Thanks.
No, I
had a
totally
little
get
tick in
it.
the back of my mind going.
Oh, I know.
Is it actually working?
Yes, I know.
All right.
I would be there totally. I probably wouldn't be half focused as I should be.
All right. I'm sorry, Rod. Go ahead.
The way I see it is that God will honor your commitment to taking that day off, whatever it is. I'm not to the point where I'm going to say it has to be Sunday, because I don't see that particular day. Obviously, that's the most likely day because that's when most times we have church.
Yep.
But I believe that God will honor that if you choose to take that day away. I like to use the example, I did not grow up on a farm, but both of my grandparents, both sides of my family, farmed, and as far as I know, they never did any work outside of the stuff you had to do.
Right.
If you had cattle, you had to feed them and, do whatever you do with cattle on Sunday. Or if you had milk cows, you had to milk them and, but they never worked on Sunday, never turned a wheel.
Yeah.
And I think God really honestly honored that. I'm sure there are many days, especially there are times, and again, I'm not, whatever you need to do, whatever you feel you need to do to accomplish during the week or on Sunday.
Right.
But I believe that God will honor that commitment to him to not work on the Sabbath. And I'm sure that, like I say, there are many times, especially during harvest season, for instance.
Yep.
Well,
I think something too that's important, a little piece of this that gets missed is the Sabbath day is not for you to go have a bunch of fun and look back and go, well, this day made me happy. That's not the point of the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son. And it keeps going on. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the seventh day and made it holy. It's not for you even fully. God's not, God's smart. He created us. He knows how we work. He knows our limits. Obviously, some people are able to push those a little further than others. But ultimately, he knows his creation, and his creation needs rest. But he also knows that it's hard to focus on a relationship with God when there's always other things continuing to be pushed in front of your face, in front of your eyes, in front of your mind. I think this is, and I know this is a huge call to, are you having a rhythm with God as well? Are you having a rhythm of being built into, of being built up, of being refreshed? I know for myself, if I push the limits on this, right, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks without a day off, I'll be okay, right? It's just this, it's just this, it's just this, it's just this. Eventually, I start feeling a real wear down, not just on my body physically or mentally, though that's a part of it, is I feel a wear on my soul. I feel a wear on my spiritual relationship with God. And he knows that. Like, that's not a shocker. As I say that, God's going, yeah. You know? And that's why he has it in his 10 Commandments. And again, the 10 Commandments aren't there to be, you're not to be, to use the law to fix yourself. It's meant to show you. It's meant to convict you. It's meant to jog something in your head going, ooh, that's right. He didn't just suggest it. He told us this is something important. I should take heed of that and really apply it. And coming back again, you know, what's work to you? Where are you refreshed? Out of the fullness of God, we were created uniquely, individually, on purpose, with a purpose. We'd be foolish to think that what fills up Rod, what refreshes Rod in the spirit, is the same exact thing as what refreshes me. You know, how you find rest and rejuvenation, things like that, is going to be different. And I think sometimes we've, as a Christian culture, I think really cast. You know, I can remember as a kid hearing different people. Oh, did you see Steve on Sunday? He was mowing his lawn. Did you see that? And as a kid, you know, I always was like, yeah, maybe he likes mowing the lawn. You know, maybe that. I don't know. I know there's some people, you know, for, you know, hunting. Maybe hunting is where they really get alone with God, and that's. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I sure know that not everybody loves to play video games, but I enjoy to play video games. You know, there's different interests that can draw that opportunity to have that quiet time with the Lord. You know, video games probably not the greatest example for that, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, it's the heart of the matter that he's getting at. That's why he doesn't say Sabbath day is Sunday, right? That's why he doesn't say Sabbath day is everybody go in your room, get on both your knees. You know, it's going to look different. It's the heart of the matter that really makes a difference. But yeah, to cease from working can be very difficult, especially when you're passionate about what you're doing and you're excited about what you're doing. You can feel this urge in a positive way too, to keep on pressing, you know? I think even in those times too, there's a lot of good that happens from taking a break. I know from my own mind, there's times where I'm going, I'm excited, I'm pushing, and I get this opportunity to take a break, and with my mind refreshed, when I come back to that same thing, maybe one of those issues or problems that I was having that I couldn't quite solve, now I've got this fresh perspective, and I'm really able to plug back into it. I think it changes, right? It changes your outlook on things quite a bit.
I think physically we're not obviously designed to just go and go. Your body needs that time to slow down. And my thing is, if you can't get it done in 6 days, what makes you think you're going to get it done in 7?
What's the magic of that one extra day, right?
And maybe then you need to look at your week and say, am I using that week to the fullest? Am I being as efficient?
This thought occurred to me too.
Am I being, wise, or am I, wasting time? Am I not being... I use the word efficient. There's another word I want to use in there.
Yeah, productive.
Effective, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you need to look at your week and say, well, I spent a little too much time doing this or that or whatever, and maybe I need to be more, like I say, efficient with my time during the week so that I can accomplish those things, so that when the seventh day comes, whatever that is, I am ready to rest and to take a break and to do whatever it is. So yeah, we're all energized by different things. Everything does, some, again, I don't know what that is. I know that for me, I mean, right now, obviously, the summertime, we talk about, I like to play golf, and there are times I can be sitting at home and go, I'm kind of tired. I'm not sure I want to go out, and I get out there and I'm ready to go. I am not tired when I step onto that tee box and get ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's an energizing for me, For some people, I might be not as energized by the end of the round as I am at the beginning of the round. For some people, it look like that'd be pure torture to go out there, But I really do try to take in the scenes a little bit between the frustration of things not going as well as I would like. Try to look around and enjoy what I'm doing, realizing not everyone has this opportunity. And, but yeah, exactly. I mean, mowing the lawn doesn't energize me. I do it because I like to have a decent looking lawn.
Right.
There are other things that, like, say, that energize me, that I can be tired and I can get in the broadcast booth and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
And, so whatever it is, yeah. But it's a requirement. It's not a suggestion.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wonder what we would be as people if we really took the Sabbath seriously. What would I be as a person if I took it seriously enough to take that day and really do focus on God, to think about, I'm not very good about this, but in our church, Pastor Paul usually sends out a email saying, hey, this is what I'm talking about on Sunday. Well, I need to do a better job of waking up and saying, okay, what's he preaching about today? And maybe focusing on that and thinking about that, after the service, and just kind of making it a part of our day. I'm not a very good example of that, so maybe this podcast will inspire me to do better.
Yeah.
If it doesn't do anything for anybody else, maybe it'll do something for me.
Yeah. Well, I think just in our conversations prior to right now, there's always going to be seasons of life where you feel yourself drifting away from that rhythm of rest. And again, that's why God has it in His Word, is to remind us, to bring us back. And something else you said that I really liked, that it does sharpen your priorities. It provides some structure, but it really it forces you to nail down what do you need to get done, and to make time for those things to get done. One of the things I always joke with people is my parents didn't let us do any homework on Sunday. None. And they didn't care if we left it to the last minute. Sunday comes, I didn't finish my project. Now, I think there was maybe one or two times where they took mercy because they knew the days leading up to it, right? And no human way possible we could have gotten it done, something like that. There were few, but I think there were. But for the most part, right, it was like, well, sorry, you're going to have to tell your teacher it's going to be late. For me, that really formed me as an adult. As I got older, my parents weren't into do this. Why? Because I said so. They gave us reasoning. They gave us, my dad's point was, because you need to set a day each week aside for God. And if you're doing all your homework, that's a very selfish thing to do on a day that you're supposed to be setting aside for God. Have better priorities, right? Get your stuff done and allow that time that's needed, not wanted, not should be. It's needed. And I've held on to that, and I look at my day off on Fridays, and I really try to cease from working. I try to spend time with my family, and I try to spend time with my Savior. And what it does is it really formulates my week leading up to that. Certain days I'm like, okay, Mondays I have to do these things. Because if I don't, they're going to bleed into Tuesday and then bleed into Wednesday and so on and so forth. And it's going to come to Friday and I'm going to be, there's still more to get done for Saturday and Sunday. I got to get it done. And I love that you brought that up because it really does. And definitely there's weeks where I don't do that well. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shoot, Friday I got to do stuff because I don't got time to do it all on Saturday, but it's got to happen on Sunday or vice versa, and I love that you brought that up. Priorities definitely is going to shape your priorities. And then this last scripture you threw at me, I really like Mark 2, starting with verse 23. One Sabbath, Jesus, I'm in the NIV. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and as his disciples walked along, they began to pick some heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" He answered, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the days of Abiathar, the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which is lawful only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord, even of the Sabbath." I love that you throw it in there. I'm curious, what sticks out to you the most from that piece of scripture, Rod? Because I think I don't hear this preached on very much. I've heard the other two many times. I don't know if I've heard this one preached on very often, but I think it sheds a lot of light on this subject of rhythm of rest.
Well, I especially like what I use the New Living Translation a lot, and it says the Sabbath was made to meet the needs of the people and not people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath.
The heart of the day. We're right back to that same subject. It's the heart of the day.
It was.
What's the point?
It was made for us, not so there would be another thing to do.
Yeah. Not another law that you have to abide by, not another task to be completed.
Didn't do it to round out and make nice 10 commandments and
right.
I don't know how it would sound.
Yeah.
If, Charlton Heston, I guess, did the 9 commandments.
Right.
People are like, well, why do we have a 9? Why not 10?
Yeah.
So guys said, well, I need a 10th one here.
Yeah.
I need something, You guys, talking to the angels. You guys got something here? Anybody got any ideas? No, it was there for a reason. It was critical, yeah. It was a reason for it, and the reason was so that we would take that time to rest. It wasn't so, and the scriptures, what he's getting at here is the Pharisees, they were all about the law. They were all about you have to do A, B, C, D, and E, and F. And if you get out of line at any one point of those times, it was, whatever. It was not good. And they made sure to follow the law. Now, they were following the law. They weren't following. They took the Sabbath off.
Right.
But they weren't doing it for the reasons that God had intended for them to do it.
Why were you doing it? Well, because you're supposed to. Why? Well, because people always did it.
It's the law.
It's the law. It's tradition. They missed the heart of it. They really did.
And the things weren't there, as Jesus says in the New Living Translation, not people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. And I know that if you study, I don't know all the requirements of Sabbath that they had, but it was you could only travel so far. You can only do so much. Jesus, I really think he loved to just poke the Pharisees.
Yeah.
He healed a man on the Sabbath. That was one of them. I think he did something else on the Sabbath. It was just kind of a little, I don't know, maybe that's not the right way to put it, but he just liked to poke them a little bit, and he knew what would kind of get their goat, I guess, and he didn't do it in it like I would do it.
No, he wanted to shed
I would
light.
do it as a vindictive thing. I would do it just to get their goat.
Get under their skin.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Jesus didn't do that.
No.
He did it thankfully.
He wanted people to see truth.
Yes. And in this case, he wanted people to see that the Sabbath was for a reason. That was for rest. It wasn't for us to do it just because we were supposed to do it. That there was, like I say, there was a reason behind it. And I really appreciate what Jesus did there, and, reminding the people, that the law was there. And there was a law there. Obviously, the old covenant was banished with the established a new covenant. But Jesus still recognized that. He didn't, he didn't throw that away. He was the new covenant, but he still referred to the old covenant, in this case, the Ten Commandments.
Right.
And so we can get some rest. It wasn't, like I say, just for another law to follow. And, we need to really take that seriously, what Jesus said, and we need to take it seriously like we would any other commandment.
Right.
We wouldn't say, well, that murder thing, that's okay. In certain cases, it's okay to covet, as long as it's the right thing to covet.
Right. No.
Yeah. And so on.
Yep.
It's okay to lie in certain situations. No,
Right.
It's, it's there. And same way with the Sabbath.
Yep.
And so, hopefully we get the point where we really do take it, seriously.
Well, and do we see the heart? This is a God that loves us. I just see such this great depiction of a father and son, or a father and daughter, parent to child. You don't know what's always good for yourself. I do know what's good for you. Mm-hmm. This is God saying, I know what's good for you. For crying out loud, I created you. I know what's good for you. Mm-hmm. And I created this to be good for you, and you're ignoring it. And not only is it good for you, it's needed. Mm-hmm. But it's for you.
Well, we
what
take
a powerful message to me.
And we had that ever since. I mean, if you let's go back to Genesis. Shortly thereafter, Adam and Eve. They thought they knew what was best.
Right.
And we think we know
how that turned out.
Yeah, we think we know what's best. We think, well,
we're living in the fruit of that decision right now.
Sabbath, that was a good idea. Right on. Hey, that's terrific.
Yeah.
But I can handle this. I know that I can go 7 days a week. I don't need to take that day off because clearly I've got this figured out, and God's like, no, you don't. And he had that so that we would take not only a physical rest, which I think is important, but more importantly, a spiritual rest to, again, focus on him. And it wasn't just, and the Pharisees totally lost it. Obviously, they had no clue. They didn't think, well, maybe we should spend more time thinking about, the Old Testament or whatever, I guess in their case would have been the books of the law and the prophets and stuff like that. They were the ones that were just there, just making sure that, everybody followed. And they did, and I'm sure they had no idea why.
Yeah.
And it may have been a case where it started out as, like a lot of things, it started out with good intentions.
Right.
You do need to take time, but after a while for the Pharisees, it just became all about the law and nothing else, and nothing about the heart, nothing about the reason.
People would be judged harshly at that time by the Pharisees for not following the Sabbath.
It was that case up until, and I'm saying in one sense, I kind of appreciate what, you go back, 50 years, and I'm throwing that as a general figure, a general number, but I mean, you didn't do nothing on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And you were judged harshly by those, if they saw you do whatever, the old mowing the lawn thing, the pastor might have been over to, well, maybe he wouldn't have been over on Sunday to visit.
How's your relationship with God going?
On Monday, saying we heard I heard or saw you were mowing your lawn, and
what's going on?
I mean, it's just And we like a lot of things have probably taken
Yeah.
it to the extreme. We've taken
Yeah.
to the other one where it's like, well, I can do whatever I want on Sunday, and I guess I'm not here to quote unquote judge you,
Right.
but let's get back to the heart of what was going on here.
Mhm.
And that's what God wanted. He wanted the people to rest physically, but spiritually to focus on Him.
Yeah.
That's why it's there.
Yep.
It's not so that I can find something to condemn you for.
Right.
And
Yeah, exactly. A phrase that I've heard is, the laws, we treat the law a lot of times like a mirror. And we look in it and we see something, like we see spinach in our teeth. Trying to use the law to fix yourself is like taking that mirror off the wall and trying to pick your teeth with it, right? It's not the intention. It's the intention is to show you and then to turn and grow closer to God. I think it takes a lot of intentionality. Taking a Sabbath day doesn't just mean, as we've already kind of talked about in a roundabout way, you can't just say, well, okay, Rod, I'm gonna take Sundays off now. I'm gonna take Saturday's Sabbath day. Because that choice affects the rest of your week. You have to be purposeful and intentional with your week if you want that space to be afforded to you. I was talking before. If I'm not good with my schedule leading up to that, things will always seek to bleed into it. And then I find myself on Fridays at 2 p.m. in the afternoon going, oh, finally. Well, shoot, over half the day's gone already, That's not what God intended. He didn't ask for half a day. He didn't ask for a quarter of a day. He's asking us to set aside a full day for Him. It doesn't come out of nowhere. Taking intentional steps, reworking your schedule. Intentional steps like listing out your priorities. What really matters week to week? What really matters? What are things that need to make sure get your attention? What are some things that don't necessarily need your attention each week, but need some attention maybe once a month or a few times a month or something like that? Are ways I think that you can start moving closer to this Sabbath day. But the worst thing I'd want is anybody listening to this to go, hey, that's a really good idea. I'm going to do that. And then that's it. It's not going to work. It's not going to work because you're going to find yourself coming to that Sabbath day going, oh, shoot, I got to get this stuff done. Next week I'll do it. And next week I'll do it. And with good intention and with good hearts, but eventually a month's going to go by and I can't do it, right? I can't do it. Mm-hmm. The simple fact is we can. I get in that same thing. Well, this week I just couldn't do it. No, it's not true. It's a lie that I tell myself sometimes that it's just not true. Making time for Him requires intentional and purposeful decisions beforehand and after. The phrase you used earlier, I like, if you couldn't get it done in 6 days, what makes you think you can get it done in 7? Let that one day go by and come after it. Paul talks to me at different times because I'm a very go person. I'm not a chill person very often. Life's a marathon, not a sprint. And if we treat it like a sprint over and over and over again, we will be gassed. We will be. And that's the other thing too, in our conversations leading up to this, we cannot reduce the effects or the parts of our mental and emotional wellness when it comes to this as well. Taking and having a rhythm of rest is going to have huge implications on your mental state and your emotional wellness. And I know if I don't have that rhythm of rest, I'm a little more chippy. I'm a little more easily annoyed. I don't see things as positive as maybe I'd see them otherwise. We've talked about the physical side of things, the spiritual side of things, and there's definitely a mental and emotional component to this. That if we're struggling with easily being annoyed, easily being frustrated, or our feathers easily being ruffled, being quick to anger or quick to assume and things like that, or we just, glass is always half empty, always half empty, always half empty. Honestly, one of the things that we really should look at is, well, how well have we been resting? How intentional have we been at resting? How much time have we really been spending with God on a regular basis? I think the answer very often would be not much. Not much. I think that gets missed. That gets discounted too, because the physical is right in front of us, right? And spiritual in a Christian culture, well, of course, right? You hear that. Well, of course, the Bible too, or God too, or this too. Of course, the spiritual is a part of this. It's a huge part of this. But in a holistic approach, you have the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health all together. And they all affect each other as well. But you got to be intentional. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that vein, but I see that just over and over and over again. If I just expect it to happen out of nowhere, it never happens.
You have to take that. You have to be intentional. You have to take that time, and whatever it is that gets you going. I'm sitting here thinking about our senior pastor, Paul Turek, who loves to go out and bike.
Not just road bike, mountain bike.
He's
on
hardcore.
8-inch cow paths.
That's not rest for me. I can tell you that right now. I tried it one time and it was not rest.
No, it'd be pain.
Yeah.
It would be painful, Rod. You'd come back in pain.
Yeah, it did not go well the last time I tried it. And I haven't been back. I probably wasn't physically ready for that.
Yep.
But, that doesn't get me excited. I don't, let's go out biking. I don't, And I know for Paul, say, let's go out and play some golf. That would be a long day. That would be a long afternoon. Now, for me, it's great. Sometimes it's a long afternoon, but it's just fun, something I look forward to. And so, it's being intentional. It's looking to say, are there things in my life that are taking away from that I need to, purge, get rid of? Yeah. Things that I'm doing that just are time wasters. Or maybe they're just stuff that, we just say, it may not be a time waster. We say, well, I just can't do that.
Yeah.
We have a hard time saying no. There's a certain expectation. You're supposed to do this and supposed to do that. You're supposed to go here and supposed to go there. And there's a point in time we just going to say, I can't do it all. Right. So what is it that's important? I try to do it all, and it usually doesn't work out well for me. And I don't like saying no. I want to do it, and I can justify it any number of ways, and I do justify it. But generally, it does not work out well for me. And so if we take that time and say, what's really important? What should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? Examine that, and how does it fit into our week? And if there are things that, like, if I add one more thing in my week, then I'm going to have to do this on Sunday or whatever day. Yeah. You got to say, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Are you willing to do that? Yeah. Right. Get into that place of where you're even willing, I think is really tough, but you have to get to a place where you're willing to say, this is going to get moved to the next week. Maybe don't make that, paying your electrical bill, maybe make that weed whipping or weeding the garden or something, but, don't make it your children that get pushed to the next week. Right. But it's like, what are your priorities? What is feasible? Unfortunately, we're not invincible and we're not Supermen. We have limits. So I couldn't summarize it up any better than that. Rod, I want to thank you for joining me today on the Porch Light Podcast. I want to thank all of you watching, listening. Hopefully we've engaged you in a conversation to live out a life of rhythm of rest and on a daily basis. This is not just a weekly thing. I think there's a daily component to it as well, as we've been talking, and scheduling and being intentional.
on a daily basis, are you finding that time with God and making that space each week to set a day aside? And it's challenging. Let's be honest. If you haven't caught that yet, please do. It's not an easy thing. It's challenging, but very few things in this world are worth doing unless there's some effort and work involved. So, with all that, thank you, Rod.
Thanks, Harry. It was fun.
Well, you're going to be back on this thing, all right,
First
man?
ever
We're not done.
podcast.
We're not done. We'll see you next time on the Porch Light Podcast. Again, my name's Harry Ozarek, the host of the Porch Light Podcast, and this is Rod Wall, Father Rod, as we affectionately call him. Loved spending this time with you, Rod. I hope that you find some rhythm of rest on a weekly basis. Find that Sabbath time. And until next time, we'll see you later.